Hello and welcome to my channel, Untitled Tarot. In this reading I want to ask the cards and spirit directly through channeling what you were like as a child. How did people perceive you as a child? And I have 6 groups here for you. This will be group number 1, this will be group number 2, this will be group number 3, this will be group number 4, this will be group number 5, and this will be group number 6. And so I will ask you to use your intuition and choose the right group for you, the group that speaks to you the most, the group that catches your eye. And if you need more time to choose your group, you can always pause the video, and if you don't need any more time, I'll just proceed to the reading. Hello group number 1, you chose this Jolanda Tarot deck, and I will start with a channeled message for you, group number 1, and then I will ask the tarot. So I will start with the channeling now. Okay, so some of you might have had bangs when you were a child, and possibly also short hair and bangs, or just short hair, I'm not sure. I'm getting a bit of a tomboy vibe, so some of you might have been more into guy stuff or boy stuff, or maybe you had a lot of boys as friends growing up. You might also have collected something that was more that possibly only boys collected in your neighborhood. I'm getting that some of you grew up in a neighborhood where there were other children as well, so some of you might have grown up in like a block or something like that. I think some of you might have like collected Pokemon cards, or like those monster figurines. I don't remember what they were called, but you know, you could collect them, and like some of them were like rare and some of them were not rare, but like I'm getting a 90s vibe here, and possibly in like the beginning of the 90s. So you were probably children in the 90s. And I think, okay, I don't know if this is correct, but like I'm getting, this is maybe only correct for some of you, but like I'm getting this feeling that some of you might have grown up in a bit of, not necessarily a bad neighborhood, but like there might have been quite a few children in your neighborhood who weren't very well off, who didn't have a lot of money, but I'm getting this feeling that you might have, like, I think your family was okay. Like, I don't think your family was struggling financially, and so I think one of the things that like other people from your neighborhood might have noticed about you was possibly that you were a bit luckier than them in some way, that like because you weren't struggling as much as some of the others were. So I think some of you, like, I think growing up, I think a lot of or some of the children from your neighborhood were quite envious of you and kind of wanted what you had. I'm also getting that some of you might have been spoiled, like your parents might have spoiled you in some areas, like your parents might have bought you some toys that the other children didn't have, but I'm not sure that they I even think one of you might have had like a childhood friend or like a neighborhood friend in the neighborhood who may have stolen something from you, like maybe like if you collected things, like for instance those monster figurines, then someone in your neighborhood might have gotten jealous that you had like one of the rarest of these monster figurines, and so they might have stole it from you or something. So but let's see what the tarot has to say. So what were group number 1 like as a child? Okay. So with the Ace of Pentacles reversed, I think some of you might actually have struggled financially. So maybe the children from your neighborhood, maybe they got it all wrong. Like maybe they thought you were like rich when actually you weren't, but like maybe your parents bought you some stuff, some toys and stuff like that in your childhood, but I'm not sure if they could actually afford it, or maybe they just chose to prioritize that, but I think money was like still a struggle, and maybe your parents also just wanted to keep up appearances, like they wanted to give you some cool toys that you could show off to your friends, because they wanted to keep that illusion alive that your family was well off financially, but maybe that was not the case, and like that's also like if you grew up in like a bad or sort of bad neighborhood, that also like even though your parents might have like bought you some stuff that the other children were envious of, then like you still lived in like in this neighborhood, which does kind of prove that, or prove to me that your family probably struggled financially, and it was probably something that was burdensome for you. Maybe you even felt like a bit bad that your parents bought you stuff that you knew they couldn't afford, and so you might have actually felt a bit like it was your maybe you felt responsible in a way, that your parents didn't have a lot of money because they bought you toys, and maybe they also like made you feel like you were, or maybe you just felt responsible also, like maybe if you asked for certain kinds of food and your parents bought it and you knew it was like something expensive, then you might have felt responsible if you didn't have like enough money to pay the electrical bill, because you felt like that was your fault because you had made the demand to for your parents to buy something, but it was really not your responsibility. They could just have said no, like and you didn't know your parents' finances, so how should you have known? So yeah. With the Two of Swords here, I think you grew up like, I think as a child you were probably quite calm, possibly more of the silent type. Maybe you had like one other sibling, or maybe you were a lonely an only child, but you could also have been a lonely child even though you had like siblings. You could still have felt alone, like if your sibling was like 5 or 10 years older than you, it might not have made you feel any less lonely to have them around, because you might not have had that much in common with your sibling, or maybe your sibling didn't really want you around. And I'm also getting like this feeling that for some of you, you might have had an older sister, and I think your parents kind of made your older sister sort of responsible for taking care of you in some way, or not necessarily that, but like they might have asked your older sibling to take you with them if they were going somewhere. Like if they were meeting with some of their friends, your parents might have told your sibling that they had to bring you with them, and I think that might have like made your sibling kind of like annoyed with you, and like felt like you were that annoying little sister that they always had to like carry around or something. And so maybe that's what kind of made you a bit silent, because you might have been in a few awkward situations where you were like tagging along with your older sibling to places you probably didn't want to go to, or you might have wanted that, but you, as soon as you got there, you didn't really want to be there, because you might have just sat in a corner somewhere, and like while your sibling was playing with like the other the other friends of your sibling who were your sibling's age and had a lot more in common with your sibling than you. And so you might also have like gotten like this stamp on you as like the annoying little sister or little brother in like your siblings group of friends. And so many people might have just seen you as that like annoying little sibling who they didn't really want to have around, but like it was okay, but like it wasn't anything personal about you at all. Like it was just the age difference that like that made it awkward, I think. And that's also what I see with this card here, Knight of Cups. Like you can see how this girl here is a horse and someone is riding this horse, and like don't pay attention to the gender, that doesn't really matter, but like you might have been that person who tagged along, who were riding someone else, who were forced to like join parties with like slumber parties with your sibling or something, where you just felt kind of awkward because it was your siblings' friends or something, and it wasn't your friends, and so you felt a bit left out also, like you were in the party but you were in the corner or something. It could also have been, if it's not a sibling, it could have been a childhood friend of yours who you felt like kept tagging you along to go to places and meet up with their friends who you didn't even know. Okay, so I'm getting something here. Some of you might have had a best friend who moved to a different city, and that was really really hard for you both to live in completely different cities, and I think but I think you tried to keep in touch with each other, and so you might have visited your best friend in their new city, and then your best friend tried to like introduce you to some of their friends in that city, but you didn't know any of them, and you felt, and that might have made you feel like you were just like a tag along with your best friend, and you were just meeting strangers who you might not have really felt any connection with, and you might also have felt like it didn't really. Some of you might also have felt like what was the point really of getting to know these people, because you didn't even live in that city, so you only met with them like once a month or something, and so it really wasn't enough to actually create a bond with these people, and so that might have been a bit awkward for you, and so you might have actually even developed some social anxiety because of this, because you felt so awkward like meeting these people who were complete strangers to you all the time. And some of you might also have tried, maybe you were the one who moved away also, so maybe you moved away, and this could also, I'm also getting the vibe that for some of you, you might have been the new girl or the new boy in school as well, and you might have felt awkward meeting all these new children you didn't know, and you felt like you all the people you actually knew from your old school, they were just gone, and you didn't really know who you were in that new school or something like that. With the 8 of Swords, I think you might have developed some anxiety in your childhood, because in this picture here you can see these killer bees, or like they look like killer bees, and like these people here are really afraid of them, but like when you look at them, like they are only looking really they're not killer bees, like that was wrong of me, like, but they are just completely normal wasps or whatever, and they only look really frightening because of the angle, because of the perspective. That makes them look a lot bigger than they actually are. In reality, they are just small wasps, and they wouldn't really, they are not really that frightening. And I think for some of you, you might have developed some a bit like irrational fear for, maybe even like you might have developed an irrational fear for something else, like not necessarily social anxiety, even though that might be the case for some of you, that you started developing social anxiety, and it started becoming really hard for you to be in social settings. But I'm also getting this feeling that you might have also developed some other phobia for something, maybe even a phobia for bees, or like insects or spiders or something. Maybe some of you are allergic to bees, and so maybe you were extremely afraid of bees growing up, because you might have had like a really traumatic experience as a child where you were stung by a bee and you almost died or something. And so this might also have made you a bit reluctant to go to any like outdoor activities, because you were afraid of bees. Like, so if there was like a summer event somewhere out in a park or something, you might have asked your parents if you could like not go, because you might have been so afraid of bees that you, or something like that, that you didn't want to take the chance or something. But I'm not sure. Okay, there's a spider. Okay, so some of you might have been really afraid of spiders. Like, maybe you had like some traumatic experience with a spider, like crawling in your hair or something, or crawling on you when you were a child or something. Or maybe like, maybe as a child you went to like some abandoned house somewhere with some friends, and you got like spiders on you, like a lot of spiders, and that might have been something really traumatic for you. But I'm also getting with the swords, the 3 of Swords reversed, it's 3 of Swords reversed, that I think you might there's like a very faint message here that I'm trying to like get, but it's something about stability within sorrow, which is really strange. But I'm getting something about you, your family having like maybe some okay, this is very specific for maybe one of you, but something might have happened, something traumatic might have happened to you in your childhood, something, maybe a family trauma, something that happened to your family, maybe it was like maybe a grandparent passed away, or an uncle passed away, or something that or a closer family member, I don't know, or like maybe a miscarriage, or something that created a big grief or sorrow in your family. But it's like, I think some of you might have felt kind of weird about this, because I think the sorrow for some reason created some stability for you and actually made the family come closer together in a way. It made the family closer. It made and you might have felt a bit bad about this, because you were actually sort of happy within the sorrow, because your parents, like, it was like the first time you felt like your parents were actually there for you and were actually present in your life. And I think you might have felt like your parents weren't really that present before that happened, and so some of you might have had some problem with your conscience there, because I think, like, when the grieving process was over, I think you actually might have like wished that the grieving process would come back, that something bad would happen again, so that you could be close to your parents again, which is really sad. I'm sorry, but that's some sad stuff. It's but yeah, so but like I'm getting a lot of like this, I'm getting what I'm getting here is like the ambivalence about it, like that feeling that you had, like where you felt bad for being happy, for like I don't know. But with the Two of Pentacles reversed, there is feet on the ground here. When it's upright, there's feet on the ground, and when it's reversed, I think of like some of you might not have felt like when you were a child that you had like a foothold, or I'm not sure if that's the right term, but like you might not have been very grounded or rooted. I mean, in maybe your parents moved around a lot, which made you not create any roots to one place, which might have been something you really wanted as a child, to actually just stay in one place and have that feeling to be able to say, this is my home and this is where I belong. And your parents might not have given you that, because they moved around a lot, possibly. So yeah, but that's all I have for you. Group number 1. I hope you gain some clarity from this reading, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in my next reading. Bye. Hello, group number 2. You chose this Tarot del Fuego tarot deck, and I will start with some channeled information for you, and then I will ask the tarot. And so I will start with the channeling. So, group number 2. I think some of you, or possibly all of you, I think you were I think you were considered quite beautiful as children, like, and probably also today. But like, I think you might have gotten a lot of compliments as a child. Some of you might also have had really long hair, which, like, I'm getting like this image in my head that like your possibly your aunts and like your female family members were all really like mesmerized by your long hair, and like felt like you might also have had like long thick hair. And so I think many of your family, especially like family members, I think they were very open about how envious they were of your great hair. You might also have be like, I'm getting this that some of you, like, you might have like one thing that tells you apart from your family, like that is very unusual for your family. Like, you might come from a family where, for instance, you might come from a family where all of your family members have brown eyes and you might have green eyes, and so I think that might have also been something that like your other family members were all complimenting and like very fascinated by your eye color, because it was so different from your other family members. There could also have been like something about your hair texture being different than the rest of your family, or possibly also hair color, that your hair color was different. I think some of you might have had like one very loyal friend throughout your childhood, and she might have been like, I guess like she, but it could be a he as well, but I'm getting like she. So you might have had this friend who and you might have been like very much like light and day, like you might have been very different from each other, but you complemented each other really well. I don't think you are like in contact with this person anymore though, but like I think you two were like big parts of each other's childhood though, and so it's a bit of a shame really that you are not in contact anymore. But let's see what the tarot has to say. So group number 2. What were they like as children? Group 2. So with the 9 of Pentacles here, I think many of you were quite confident actually as children. Some of you might have been Leos, even though it's like Pentacles, but like you could have been an Earth sign as well, but like I'm more getting Leo. Like there's Queen of Swords here, so it could have possibly been it could be an air sign, but I'm just getting like this Leo vibe, that because of the confidence. I think you were quite confident, also because of the hair, but like I think you were quite confident about yourself when you were a child. I'm not sure if you are as confident now as you were as a child. I think some of you, like, I get this feeling that like when you were a child, like you were very much like in touch with your body, or like you were very confident, like in your skin. Like even if you might some of you might have been like maybe on the chubbiest side when you were children, but I think you still had that confidence, and you didn't really see anything wrong with your body. And I think many people really admired that about you, that you were so confident and you didn't care that you didn't look like a model, or that like you believed that you were like really beautiful, and you were, and like many people probably said that to you as well, and you were. I'm getting really this feeling that you were really beautiful. You might even have like done some like modeling as a child, but I'm not sure about that. But I think like it didn't matter to you, that like you just seemed very, very happy about your looks, and to compare yourself to others, which is really like refreshing, that like you saw yourself as beautiful as you were, and like and then possibly when you became a teenager, you became more like body conscious, and it became a bit more you might have like in your teenage years you might have lost a bit of that confidence, which is a shame, but also very natural, because that is a phase that many people go through. But like I'm getting like this message that like you should get, like, if you're not back in that confidence that you had when you were a child, I think you need to like try to embody that confidence that you had when you were a child. Like try to get that back, because it was really wonderful and admirable. And I'm also getting this feeling that like when you were a child you were really like unapologetically yourself. Like you wore your heart on your sleeve. You didn't try to filter yourself. You were very much yourself. Like you didn't try to impress anyone. You didn't try to be anything you weren't. And I just think that you were just very much like in alignment with your true self when you were a child. You were very natural, I think. So with the Queen of Swords here, this could possibly have been your mother. So some of you might have been raised by a single mother, and I'm getting like that you were raised by like a very, very strong single mother who were very like in her power and like very independent. Like you probably had a really, really great mother figure, because or like a role model for you to become this confident person was also to look at your mother and see how confident your mother was, and how she was so confident even though she was possibly a single mother, and how she didn't like. I think you were really inspired by your mother's way of not needing anyone to validate her and make her feel like she was good enough, because she could do that herself, and she didn't need a man to be able to like compliment her because she was like, or something like that. But I think also I think your mother was just like really powerful and strong, really strong, headstrong, really and your mother might have because of the dragons or whatever here, all like coming at this person. I think your mother might have like, the reason why your mother was a single mother could have been because she was hurt by a man in her life. Your father might have hurt her, or might have abandoned her, or might have done like something, and so I think your mother was like your mother had a lot of struggles to deal with, but she dealt with them very gracefully, and like if your father just like left one day and then I think your mother was just like she took the role of the single mother really well, and like it came very natural to her. She might have even like chosen to be alone, like, so she might have been the one who broke up with your dad, or for some of you, like because she felt like she didn't need like an extra child in her life, and like that's kind of the feeling I'm getting, that maybe your mother felt like your father was like a bit of a child, and that being in a relationship with him was kind of like having to raise another child, and that she couldn't really focus on you because she was so because she was preoccupied with raising your dad, like, and so she might have like said to your dad that she just wanted to be a single mom and do this all by herself, and without his help, because he wasn't really very helpful, and so she just felt like it would be easier to do it alone or something like that. And I think this mindset that your mother had, I think this really formed your personality as a child, and because looking at that role model that really independent role model that you had, and saw how she was so confident and how she could just like choose to be alone, and that might have been a vibe that you had like throughout your childhood, that might have even saved you a lot throughout your childhood. This idea that like you might have felt like you didn't have to be friends with someone because just because you needed friends. Like you might have had like that independent energy where you could just say to people, I don't need you. I'm fine alone. It would be nice to be friends with you, but I'm not dependent on you. I don't need to have you in my life. And so I think you actually had a lot of friends though. Like I don't think you were alone as a child at all. I think you had a lot of friends. And I think the reason why you had a lot of friends was because you gave out this energy that you didn't need anyone. And so that for some weird reason that might have attracted friends to you, because you didn't need anyone. And I'm also like getting that like people didn't. I'm not getting a vibe, and I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I'm like generally speaking, for most of you, I don't think you were bullied as a child, and I think a lot of the reason why you weren't bullied was because people noticed about you, that you that like if they did something, like if they said something to you, you just walk away, and you weren't going to let anyone get to you because you didn't need anyone, and so you didn't have to you didn't have to put up with it. Like if people gave you bullshit, you could just walk away, and it like their loss in a way. And I think that whole energy really saved you a lot, and like because it's confident. I wish I had that energy when I was a child, because I didn't have that at all. I was like very apologetic of myself as a being. Like I was constantly saying that I was sorry, like about everything, and apologizing about everything, and like I was like a big like apology for myself. Like I was like, I could go into a room and say like, I'm sorry I'm here, like sorry for killing the vibe, sorry for being here, like and so like this is complete opposite energy I'm getting, and so I think that's really great for you that you had that, because it's really admirable, really. And with the 7 of Wands reversed, I think this is telling me also that one of the other things that you had going for you, like you had so many things going for you. I'm actually getting a bit like a bit jealous of you in a way, like because I wish I had that when I was a child. But like with the 7 of Wands, I'm guessing that one of the things that saved you was that you didn't idolize anyone. Like you didn't like or you probably idolized your mother or like something like that, but like I don't think you idolized any of your friends. Like you didn't have like that one, you didn't have like anyone in your friend group that you just looked up to and that you were trying to like impress to, in order like and who you wanted to like there wasn't anyone you tried to impress and who you really wanted to have liking you, like and so I think this this thing where you didn't like, where you didn't seem desperate and you didn't try really hard to get people to like you, like you were, I think I'm also getting this feeling that like if someone didn't like you, you could accept that. Like you didn't have to have everyone liking you. It was okay if someone didn't like you, because then it was their loss. And so like you didn't have that. Like I know I had that when I was a child, and like I couldn't stand it if someone didn't like me. Because like if someone didn't like me, I would do a lot to try to make that person change their mind about me, because I wanted everyone to like me, and that's a loser's game, because you can't get everyone in the world to like you. That's and I think you figured that out very quickly, which is really great that you figured that out so quickly, that you that you didn't have, like, people didn't have to like you, and you could just focus on the people who actually liked you. And also, like, if someone, I'm also getting like this feeling that like if you were with, like, if you were friends with, like, with someone and they for some reason started disliking you for some weird reason, you didn't try really hard to make them change their mind. You just accepted, okay, we've grown apart, and that's all right. You can call me if you change your mind. I like that vibe, and like it's kind of a magical vibe to have. It's like, why didn't I think of that? And I think you are like I'm getting that you possibly are still like this, like, to this day, which is really great, a great energy to have. So with a judgment here, I'm getting that for some of you, also with the rabbit here, like the rabbit seems like it's just crawling up of this hole, and it's kind of like late to the party, and like there's also already a party going on, and like this rabbit is just like turning up, like, hey yo. And I think that's maybe also like a thing that you had when you were a child, that you could just like show up to things like unapologetically, like you could just go into like a group of people and like possibly like become the center of attention, like like in some magical way. Like even like if you went to like a party where you didn't know anyone, you could just like become the center of attention and like make everyone in the room like you. And I'm also getting a really like, some of you might have always been performers. Like you might have loved to like perform in front of people, like put on a show for people and entertain people. I think you really enjoyed entertaining people. Some of you might have also been really good singers. Like you might have always been good at singing. That's also what I'm getting with the bell here. Like some of you might have been really, really musical, but you might also have like had like, there's also something about dance. Like maybe you were good dancers, maybe you were good at singing, like everything has to do with music. I'm getting that. But also some of you might have been like had a really great like taste in music, even as a child. Like you might have known all. Some of you might have had one of those music channels on the TV, like MTV, before it became like only reality and like boring stuff. Like when it was actually a music channel. And also like what's that other channel called? That also a music channel that only showed music and music videos. You might have had that in your childhood. Like your family might have had that music channel, and so you might have heard all the newest music before anyone else, and so you knew the music beforehand, and possibly also had seen all the music videos, and so like I think many of your friends possibly like admired you because you knew the music already, and like you knew I think you knew a lot about music just in general. But also I think you might have had that channel, but you could also have had like other TV channels which might have made you like a popular destination for your friends, because your friends might have like loved to visit your house because your family had all the great TV channels that they could watch with you, and so they might have loved to visit you because of that. So with the 9 of Wands here, this is reversed, and that makes sense, because when it's upright, it's a lot about being defensive, and so reversed, I think you don't have that defensiveness, or you didn't have that as a child. You weren't really. You were very unapologetic. Like you didn't like try, like if someone accused you of something, and like even if it wasn't true, and like if they accused you of something that like was really unfair, or if you heard some rumors or something, I think you were really good at just letting it go instead of like trying to, like, because sometimes when we become defensive, especially as children, like, and I remember a lot of times when I was a child where I made the situation a lot worse than it had to be for myself, because I became defensive. Like when someone accused me of something that I didn't do and that I thought was really unfair, I started like digging my own grave by defending myself, and like it even made me look even more guilty of that thing that they were accusing me of, because I was so defensive. If I hadn't been defensive, I don't think like people would have like, and so I think people people saw you as quite like, as very like not defensive. You were very like, if someone said something to you, you would accused you. If someone accused you of something that wasn't right, you would just say, that's not what happened, but whatever. Like, you can believe what you believe. I know my truth. You can know your truth. Like, if you think this is like, if you think I did this, then that reflects more on you than it does on me. So you can just believe what you believe, and you might have like had that energy, and I think it really got you quite far in life that you had that. But I'm also getting, because of this, if you look at the picture, 9 of, like, this is the picture, like, upright is of a person who's like looking 2 ways and having 2 faces. And when it's reversed, I think you, like, as a child, I think you were very much not two-faced. Like, I don't think you, I think you were very like honest, and you didn't try to be anything that you weren't, and you didn't try to impress anyone by showing them a version of yourself that wasn't yourself. I think you were very just confident in who you were, and you showed that version of yourself to people, and you weren't two-faced because of that. But also I think yeah, I think that's it. With the moon here, I get that it might just be the mother thing, that your mother was a big part of your life in your childhood, and she formed your personality and made you who you are today and who you were as a child. And so I think you also might have mimicked your mother a lot as a child. You might even have like had some of the same interests as your mother. Like, I think you were very close to your mother, like really close to your mother, I think. So with the Queen of Wands reversed, I think, well, this is of someone who is grown into a tree. And so like that's what it is upright, and when it's reversed, I think this might tell me that you weren't stagnant as a like you possibly like to like mix things up and make things interesting. Like, I think you enjoyed surprises and enjoyed to like make things interesting. Like, you might have been that child in like a group of friends who would like say, let's make this interesting. And like, maybe you were that child, like if you were playing a game with your friends, you might have said like, let's create some sort of what's it called, like reward system, or the opposite of a reward system, but like if the like that losers should do something. If someone lost the game, they should do something, that there would be a consequence if you lose the game or something. And so you might have been that person who always came up with something that would make your games interesting, like and like make dares, like you daring people to like also like truth and dare. You might have been the type who would always choose dare, but also like I think you just liked to make things interesting and like mix things up, and like okay, the loser has to walk around naked or something. Like you might have always come up with some sort of something, whatever. I think you were also possibly really good at coming up with games as a child. Like you were possibly very creative, like had a very creative mind where you could just make up games on the spot. You might have even like created some of your own games, like your own rules for certain games as well, or something. Like I think people just in general saw you as quite entertaining. Like you became the life of the party, like everywhere you went as a child, because you were so good at like coming up with ideas to how to make things fun, and how to lighten the mood, and how to do something to make to entertain others, like you. So yeah, I think this was a really positive reading. So I hope you enjoyed this reading, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in my next reading. Bye. Hello, group number 3. You chose this Hermetic Tarot deck, and I will start with some channeled information for you, and then I will ask the tarot, and I will start with the channeling. Group number 3. So what were group number 3 like as a child? I think some of you might have had quite strict parents growing up, so I think some of you weren't really allowed to do a lot of stuff. So I think your friends might have had this feeling that like you didn't that some of your friends might have felt that you were a bit boring because you were never allowed to do the same things that they were allowed to do. Some of you might also have had like, this might have been a bit this might have been something that was like unfair, because I think some of your friends in your childhood, they might have judged you unfairly, but it was mostly because of your parents really making things hard for you, because your parents might have had some strange beliefs or something. Like for some of you, your parents might have actually been been a member of some sort of church, or maybe even like Jehovah's Witnesses, or some kind of possibly a cult, but if not a cult or Jehovah's Witnesses or something like that, then I think it's just like very something like a very orthodox like they might have been Christians, but like very orthodox Christians, or like very just not orthodox, but maybe just very devoted to their religion, or like maybe also your parents could have been Muslims, or any religion, Hindus, like any religion, but they might have been very, very serious about that religion, and so you weren't. So they might have been very focused on the traditions in that religion and following the traditions and being very doing everything by the book, but also I'm getting something about if it's not religion, it could be like a bit of a dietary religion they had. Like they might have had like some belief that gluten was like the worst thing in the world, and so you weren't allowed to eat gluten or something like that. And so they might have been very devoted to some dietary mumbo jumbo that they believed in, or something, or maybe they were vegetarians or vegans or something, and that might have made you kind of stand out from in your friend group, because like if you went to a friend's house for dinner, then your friend's parents had to like change the whole menu so that you could actually eat something, and so it might have like caused your friend's parents to be a bit annoyed by you. And so if your friend's parents were annoyed by you because you were a bit like, because your parents made you kind of difficult, or your parents were difficult, which made you difficult because you had some dietary rules that your friend's parents had to follow, and your friend's parents might have perceived you as difficult, and then they might have like they might have what's it called? They might have affected their child's view on you, like manipulated, or not manipulated, but changed their child's view on you, because, and so like I think also like if your parents, like even if it's not this, but like if your parents were kind of difficult like themselves, or kind of not that likable, and like if your parents weren't friends with your friend's parents for some reason, or if your friend's parents couldn't stand your parents because they didn't like them for some reason, maybe because you're okay, so this might be very specific for one of you, but for one of you, your parents might be a bit rude to people and a bit arrogant towards people, and so like if your friends' parents, or the parents of your friends, invited your parents to dinner, and your parents like criticized the food or criticized their house or something, then your the parents of your friends might have like might have judged them and then judged you because you were their child, and so they might have made assumptions that you were the same way because you came out of them. And so I don't know, but I'm getting like this feeling that your parents really were the reason why you might have had a hard time in your childhood, and might have had a hard time making friends in your childhood, because in some way they got in the way of you getting any friends because they were a bit difficult. This might also have like been a general vibe, just like in kindergarten to school too, like your teachers, like your kindergarten teachers, but also your school teachers, they might have all kind of like hated your parents or thought that your parents were kind of difficult, or maybe just dislike them. Maybe hate is kind of like a hard word for, and it might not resonate with all of you, but like maybe for instance, like your teachers in school might have felt like your parents were kind of rude to them at school, at parent-teacher conferences, because your parents might have criticized your teachers and said that they weren't doing a good enough job, or like if your teachers criticized you, then they were very defensive and said that it was their fault for not being good enough at teaching you or something, or they might just have been like I'm getting like that they were a bit arrogant. Your parents were a bit arrogant towards your teachers and like acted as if they knew everything much better than your teachers did, and that they knew how to do your teacher's job, really, that they would be able to do their job much better than your teachers. And so some of you might have actually had or some of you have parents who are teachers themselves, and so maybe that's kind of the thing going on here, that they might have been kind of arrogant towards your teachers because they were teachers themselves, and so it might have been like a pissing contest for your parents, where they wanted to like undermine your teacher's authority, because they wanted to be the main teachers in your life, like, and so that they might even have, like, your parents might have criticized your teachers in front of you, like, or to you, like they might have made fun of your teachers to you and made fun of how bad they were, or how stupid they were, or how they were good for nothing teachers, and so like that might have been the conversation that was going on at home, like in your childhood home, that like your parents really loved to make fun of your teachers and make fun of how stupid they were, and that might have like affected your view on your teachers, and your teachers might have noticed that, and might have actually known or had a hunch about it, like they might have like if you didn't have faith in your teachers at school, and like kind of gave off this arrogant vibe in school towards your teachers, then I think your teachers could like see through it and see that it wasn't coming from you, but it was coming from your parents. And I think that that made them kind of angry at your parents, that your parents were trying to undermine their authority, and I think your parents were kind of controlling, and they wanted to be in control, and they wanted to be in control of your of everything about you. And so I think they were really wanted to be in control of your education, and that's kind of that was kind of their power move to like hold on to your education by making you question your teachers and make you go to your parents for guidance instead of your teachers. And so by undermining your teachers' authority, your parents could keep their authority and keep the control over your education, because then you would only listen to them and believe in what they said and not what your teacher said. And so like I'm guessing like that your parents were kind of controlling, and they were probably also, like as I said in the beginning, controlling of every move that you made, and like you weren't allowed to go to this and that, and you weren't allowed to be up late, and you weren't allowed to go to slumber parties because you had to go to sleep at a certain time every night, and you had to so there were many like rules, but also like the dietary thing. Like maybe your parents ate gluten, but they tried to make you not eat gluten, because that probably also was kind of like a power move from your parents, that like if they could like make those dietary changes, then they were in control of your diet, even when you were even when you weren't at home with them. Like then they could be in control of your diet even when you were out and about and like visiting other people. Then they would still be involved in some way and in control of the situation. And also like maybe they created these rules, these dietary rules, just so that they could make the food that you had to, like, some of you might have always had to bring your own food to birthday parties and to events and all social gatherings. You had to bring your own food as a child, and I think that was kind of your parents trying to control what you ate even when you weren't at home. And so they might have made up that you weren't that you couldn't digest gluten or something, but it might not have been true. But okay, that's maybe a stretch. Maybe you were a bit sensitive to gluten, I don't know. But let's see what the tarot has to say. So what were group number 3 like as a child? Group number 3. Group number 3. Okay, so 8 of Swords reversed. I think well, this does look a bit like Wi-Fi, the internet symbol when this card is reversed, and so I think some of you might have been you spend a lot of your time on the internet, and that kind of makes sense because, like, if you were always like trapped in your house because your parents didn't allow you to go anywhere, then you might have like had to go to the internet instead, and so some of you might have found a lot of friends on the internet, found like some websites where you could like find like-minded people on the internet. So but some of you might also have played video games, like some possibly also some social video games, like for instance I don't remember the name of it, but you might have played like some games a lot, some video games on the internet, so like RuneScape maybe, possibly also what's that game, you know, with that really big, like the biggest internet game that have ever existed? It's like like with all the fantasy stuff, like the ogres, and like then you can play an ogre, and then you could play a wizard, and then you can, like, it's a bit like Dungeons and Dragons, but like not really. Some of you might have played Dungeons and Dragons as a child. So that could be it, like physically, like with your friends. But I'm also getting like some of you might have had some restrictions, so like your parents might have told you that you could only like use the internet for like a certain amount of hours or something, or maybe only 1 hour in your childhood. So I think you tried to make the most of it when you actually had the internet, but I think the internet, even though you might have had like restricted amount of time on the internet, I think it did kind of help you through some of the loneliness that you were feeling, maybe as a child who felt a bit like an outcast, and so I think yeah. With the High Priestess here, I think some of you might have also had maybe even as a child you might have been a bit into some witchy things, maybe you read the comic books Witch, or possibly Wings Club, or anything that has to do with witchcraft, Harry Potter, so yeah, some of you might have been really crazy Potterheads when you were children and when you were a child, but I'm also getting that some of you might also have watched that TV show Charmed. I don't think it's called Charmed, but there was this TV show that was about witchcraft. I didn't watch it personally. I knew a lot of people who did though, but I never had the channel that showed that show, so I never really got the chance to watch it. It was something about witches, and but you could also have watched some of those shows on those kids shows, that show with that psychic that was really popular. I don't know why I can't remember any names right now. It's kind of freaking me out, but that show with the psychic, but also maybe that witch from Waverly Place or something, or that show, or also Sabrina also. Maybe you were really a fan of Sabrina, the Sabrina witch TV show. There were quite a lot of shows about witches, especially I remember quite a lot of shows. So so yeah, you might have watched a lot of shows about witches and psychics, and so you might have had this interest to learn more about the spiritual world, even from a very early age, because you watched all these shows. You might also have had a big crush on Justin Timberlake. That could have been a thing. So I'm actually getting that I think Justin Timberlake and music like that, that song with the rain, the song Justin Timberlake song with the rain, that really sad song about something, I don't know, but that might have been on repeat in your childhood. Maybe some of you had a mixtape in the car, in your family car, and every time you went on vacation, you might have played that mixtape or that CD with burnt songs from LimeWire on repeat, and like possibly Justin Timberlake and Weird Al and all the greats, and that might have been on one CD, burnt CD, that was playing in the car always throughout your whole childhood. And so like your childhood could possibly just like that might be the most nostalgic thing in your whole like childhood. That might be that mixed tape or that burnt CD in the car because you heard it so many times. And like even like and that does tell me that like if your parents were burning CDs, that's kind of like a character break for me. Like it breaks character because like I've seen that your parents as really, really strict and religious and like and so maybe that's not completely the thing here. So maybe your parents were just controlling, but also possibly very introverted, or didn't really want you to like visit friends, or didn't want your friends to come over to your house. And so like they might have had like this thing where they just didn't really want anything to do with your friends, and didn't want you to go to your friend's house because they didn't want to have to pick you up, because your parents might also have like like maybe your father or your mother or maybe both of your parents suffered from some social anxiety, or maybe they were just like socially awkward in some way, and so they didn't want you to visit your friend's house because then they knew that they had to pick you up, and when they had to pick you up, then they had to have a conversation with the parents, and then they would get invited to a cup of coffee, and then they didn't really want to deal with that. And like a small part of me kind of relates to that for some reason. Like I'm afraid that I'm going to be like that as a parent, because like I understand why people would try to find any excuse to not have to deal with other parents. So like maybe other parents didn't like hate your parents because they were because of something they did, but more because they seemed to not want to have anything to do with them. And so maybe the parents of your friends disliked your parents because your parents kind of obviously was trying to ignore them, and so they disliked them because your parents disliked them. And so I think and I think they might have felt like they were that your parents were keeping to themselves and were like very not very social. Your parents might also have said no to help with some stuff, like school stuff. Like your parents might have turned down some like invitation to go to something at school where the parents were supposed to work together, maybe to like maybe the school needed needed to build something, and so the school collected all the parents for like a work day or a work weekend where the parents would work together to build something. And your parents might have said no, and that they didn't really like, they couldn't be bothered by it, like they so like I think your parents might have like been a bit lazy, or maybe also a bit like not to be mean or anything, but like very self-involved and very like egotistical, like whenever they had to do something that they didn't want to do, or didn't really feel like doing, then they didn't do it, even though if they had done it, that would have been better for you, like that would have made you feel better in the school and like in your environment, if your parents had been more open to be more present in the social life in around you. Like, so I think with the High Priestess, I think many people saw you and your family as kind of closed off, as like a mystery, as like this this entity that they didn't that they hadn't figured out, that they couldn't really read you and your parents. People might have like felt like you they might also have felt like you were keeping some secrets, or that your parents were keeping some secrets or something. And so I think even though your parents, I think this is kind of like ironic, but like I think even though your parents tried really hard to not get involved in anything socially, I think they were kind of like a topic, even though they weren't there. Like they should have probably been to these social gatherings, because their absence drew more attention to them. Like they were trying not to draw attention to themselves by not coming, but by them not coming to these things, they were drawing attention to themselves and making themselves a topic that was being discussed when they weren't there. And so I think many people around you actually had like opinions about your parents that kind of hurt you in some way, because like even though they might not have hurt you like like directly, they might have like hurt you by like if there was speculations about your parents, because your parents never were in the room to defend themselves, then these speculations might have become discussions at home in your friend's house, and that might have affected your friend's view on you, and so that's kind of like, it's really unfair because it has nothing to do with you. So with the devil here, I think as a child, like some of you might be Capricorn, but in Sun, Moon, or Rising, but like also like because of like Satan. So like maybe some of you might have had like a phase, like a phase, not phase, but like a phase in life where you were maybe a bit gothic, or emo, or sheen. I never know how to pronounce it. Scene, just scene. I don't know. Or alternative, that you had an alternative clothing style or something, where you either dressed like gothic or emo or scene, or like maybe you had that hair where like it was like really puffed up, and then like with the with the bangs that were crooked, like, or whatever. You know, that hair, like, and you might have colored your hair a lot of different colors, and you might also have worn like those necklaces that like chokers, or like those I don't know what you call those, but like those like not chokers like in that you can buy now, but like those where like it was like an elastical band that you could like where there was like these round thing. But like you might have worn like necklaces like that. You might also have had like a period where you were like a bit obsessed with death or something. But also like, so some of you might also have like had a period where you were very into, maybe you're still very into like heavy metal or death metal or death rock or everything with death maybe. But also like it could also have been like the more mild stuff like My Chemical Romance or Fall Out Boy or whatever, and or Fall Out Boys or Fall Out Boy. I never know. But or like Tokyo Hotel. Tokyo Hotel. I never know. But also like that. So like here's like that sort of like this could also have been like that sort of choker like had like something extreme as well, like with a lot of like spikes. Something. Oh, Spike! You might have been like very into Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Some of you might have also had like been really into vampires as a child, or like maybe some of you like this is kind of more teenage stuff, but like you could have actually had like these interests very early on, so like in your late childhood, but like right before the teenage phase. So some of you might have been very mature for your age, and so you might have gotten to that gothic period long before, like maybe a few years before the other children your age became gothic. Like you might have been a few years like prior to them or something. But like but I'm also just guessing like even if you didn't have like that gothic or punk or emo phase, then I think you might just have like been a bit obsessed with death or something as a child. So, but that's all I have for you. Group number 3. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in my next reading. Bye. Hello, group number 4. You chose this Rider-Waite tarot deck, and I will start with some channeled information, and then I will ask the tarot, and so I will start with the channeling. Group number 4. Group number 4. What were group number 4 like as children? So I'm getting something about some of you actually, that you were actually allowed to be a child for quite long, which is a positive thing. Maybe some of you had like a parent, like maybe your father, who tried to like keep you in the child phase, like they didn't want you to grow up because they didn't like they didn't want, maybe they didn't want you to slip away from them, and so you might have had a parent, possibly your father, who had an easier time understanding you when you were a child, and so I think they were like extremely afraid of you becoming a teenager, because I think it's the thought of you becoming a teenager really scared them a lot for some reason, but I think it's mostly because they felt like they didn't understand teenagers, and especially teenage girls. If you are a female, and so I think they just they wanted you to stay a child for as long as possible, and so I think your father might have bought you toys even after you didn't play with toys anymore, and some of you might also have acted like you might have acted like a child to please your father or your mother, but possibly your father, and so you might have put on this act, and you might have even like pretended to play with toys even though it didn't interest you anymore, and so and you pretended to be happy about like getting toys as gifts for a long time. And so I think you pretended quite a lot just to please your parents. I think you really wanted to please your parents and make your parents happy, and I think a lot of your personality, like that you were like in your childhood, was kind of like a reflection of what you believed your parents wanted, how your parents wanted you to be. And so I don't know if the act that you you put on, this mask that you put on, I don't know if that was actually you, or if it was just you pretending to be someone you weren't, just to make your parents happy. So yeah, but let's ask the tarot about what you were like as a child. Group number 4. What were you like as a child? Group number 4. Group number 4. Okay, with the 4 of Swords, sorry, 4 of Pentacles, I think you, I think this makes sense. I think you were probably perceived as quite as someone who were keeping a lot to yourself, and who probably like were holding on to like yourself and holding on to what you had and not sharing yourself with others, and like I think it might have been because like I think people might have like had a difficult time reading you or like figuring out who you were, and it's possibly because you were pretending to be someone you were not. And I don't think it was only towards your parents that you were this way. I think you possibly were this way towards everyone in your life as a child. And I think you tried to be whoever people wanted you to be. And so when you were like talking to your friend or friends like in your childhood, you were just saying whatever you thought they wanted to hear, in order for them to want to be with you. And like I think you wanted so I think you wanted so badly to be accepted as a child, and like I think you really I don't know how to say this because without like it sounding bad, but like I think you needed a lot of validation from others, and I think the way you could get validation from others was to do whatever you thought would give you that validation. Like you would do whatever you had to do for people to like you, and for people to like I think you might have done some things that like you might regret that you did, and you possibly only did them and like not possibly, you only did them did these things because you wanted to impress people, and you wanted people to want to be your friend, and you wanted people to like you. And so like some of you might like, and I think the worst part is I think some bullies might have picked up on that, that you wanted so badly to be accepted, and you were so you might have like given off a bit of like a desperate vibe, and so I think some bullies might have taken advantage of that, and like they might have seen that they could make you do anything, just if they told you that if you did this, then you could be accepted into their group or something. And so like some bullies might have like forced you to eat a worm or do something nasty, and they might have told you that if you did that, then you could be accepted in their friend group, and so you wanted so badly to be accepted into that friend group that you actually did it. And then after you did it, then they might have like said to you that ew, they of course don't want to be friends with like someone who has eaten a worm, like, and like might have been like you know, and that might have been like really, it's like, it's wrong for me to laugh at this, but it's I'm laughing at like how bizarre some people are. Like, it's like the bullies. It's just like like, I don't even know how some kids come up with this stuff, like making someone eat a worm and then say, ew, you're so disgusting for eating a worm. But like, you made the person do that. You don't you have it like it's, but like that's what these bullies want. Like, they want and so like you might have like had some experiences like that, where some really low life bullies thought it was funny to degrade you and make fun of you for that thing, that only because they knew how badly you wanted to be friends with them, and which is really mean. And so I think you might have used a lot of your childhood actually trying to like chase some people who you wanted so badly to be friends with, and who you really wanted to like hang out with, and you wanted very badly to be a part of that group, and they just kept turning you down, and so yeah, but with it, I think at some point, Nine of Pentacles, at some point, this might have been in your early childhood, but I think at some point, like right before your teenage years, I think you did become, I think you stopped chasing these idiots at some point, and realized that you were better off alone. But you could also have like gotten like a bit of that. You might have developed a defense mechanism because you were turned down so much. You might have developed a defense mechanism where you were just like, fuck them, I don't need them, I'm the shit, and I don't need them in my life, and you might have also just like said like, okay, if you don't like me, I don't like you, and I think that was a healthy energy that you like. That's a very healthy way of seeing things, I think, and I think it helped you a lot, especially when you came to your teenage years, you had that fuck it, fuck everyone, fuck the world, fuck everything. That you had that attitude. I think that attitude really saved you a lot. But I think it might also have made you a bit lonely, because it might have made you be alone a lot. Maybe yeah. So like I'm getting a feeling that you were sort of lonely as a child. And you might also have felt like people really misunderstood you in a way. But I'm also getting that like, because like, and the thing that people might have misunderstood might have been because you kept a lot of yourself hidden, or maybe it's the other way around, that like you started hiding your true self from people because like that's also a defense mechanism when we are faced with a lot of rejection. Then we might start wearing a mask and meeting new people with like a mask where we play like a character and like create a character for ourselves, and but it's really a way of like trying to protect the person within ourselves. Like, because if we put on this mask and start acting like someone completely different than ourselves, then someone rejects us, then they are not rejecting us, they are rejecting the mask. And so it's a kind of a defense mechanism to make us feel better about rejection, because then we can always say, okay, I was rejected by this person, but it was only because they knew this fake version of me, and this fake version is not the correct version of me, and so it's a different person. So it didn't reject me, it rejected the person I acted like. And I think this was something that was sort of good for you in your childhood, but it could also have been like a reason for more rejection, because people might have felt like they didn't truly know you, or that like maybe some people felt like because you were wearing this mask and acting like someone else, they might have felt like you were a bit fake, or that you acted like a different character than you were. Or also maybe some people might have like felt like there were some holes in your story, and so some people might have like called you a liar or something, because they felt like the person you acted like it didn't add up with you. And so some people might have been like some people might have noticed that you were playing a character, and that might have been a reason why some people rejected you in your childhood. But I don't think it's the reason for it, though. It was more like fuel to a fire that was already like already started, if that makes sense. But with this 6 of Swords here, some of you might also have moved away in your childhood, or moved to a different school in your childhood. Maybe your parents moved you to a new school after they found out that you were being bullied, or something like that, and so they might have started have like put you in a different school. And I think for some of you it was good to start over, I think, but it might only have like been good in the beginning, and then it might have like started, maybe some of you were bullied in the other school as well, because well, there's something about like bullies being able to identify like people who have been bullied before, like that they can smell them, or like something. But I'm also guessing like it's not your. I hope I'm not giving off like a vibe that it was your fault that you were bullied, because it wasn't. Like it's never the victim's fault that they were bullied, because like, but like there might, some of you might benefit from a bit of an explanation though, and I'm not even sure if this is like the explanation, but it's just something I'm picking up on. Like it's a small part of the explanation. The explanation is like big and has possibly nothing to do with you, but like a small part might be like if you were bullied in the next school as well, it could be because the bullying from the other school had made you develop a lot of defense mechanisms to protect yourself. And so when you started a new school, you might have already had all these guards up when you met these new people or new children in the new school, and so you might have been guarded already, and you might have protected yourself, and you might have started again to like act like someone else to like protect yourself, and I think some of the bullies from that school might have picked up on this and exploited that weakness of yours, and tried to figure out if they could find some holes in your stories. For instance, like maybe some bullies really enjoyed to like try to like question what you said and accusing you of lying or something. But you might not have lied directly. You might have just like changed a bit of your personality just so that you could keep some of your own personality hidden. And it's not directly lies. It's not like you went to like school and said that your mother was dead, or even though she was alive, or that like you might have just like made like small lies about your personality, like or not lies, but like you might have acted a bit like a different person, or said that you had some interests or hobbies that you didn't have, just because you didn't want to share your own hobbies. Because like for instance, if you were really into comic books and you had been bullied because you were so into comic books in your previous school, then when you started the new school, you might have been afraid of like sharing that information with people because you didn't want them to bully you as well, and so you might have kept that interest of yours secret. And then someone might have asked you, but well, what do you do in your spare time? And then you thought like, well, in your thought process, you might have thought, well, I actually love to read comic books, but you couldn't say that, and so you had to lie and say that you did something else with your spare time, so that you could keep that a secret. And so in order to keep that a secret, you had to create a lie. And then you might have said that you like to swim or something, and then someone might have like said, well, have like tricked you, or by saying like, oh, but where do you swim, like and then like they might have put you on the spot and like asked, oh, they might have said like, I like to swim as well. Where do you swim? Do you swim at the pool, or do you have your own pool, or do you have like or something, and like to try to make like a trap for you so that they could expose your lies. But really, your lies weren't really that bad. It was something you said because you didn't want to say your actual interests, or what you actually did in your spare time. And some of you might also have had like maybe you didn't even have a spare time, so that could be a thing for some of you. Maybe you didn't have a normal childhood where you had spare time, possibly because maybe there were problems at home, like maybe one of your parents were drinking or something, and so your spare time was maybe used to like cover up for your parents, and to like maybe also do stuff for your parents that your parents were supposed to do. Like maybe you took care of your sibling in your spare time, but you didn't want to say that, because if you said that to your friends in school, that you used all your spare time to do the job that your parents were supposed to do, then you could have exposed your parents, and that could have had like very difficult consequences for you if you exposed your parents, because then like your friends could tell them tell their parents about it, or tell the teachers about it, and then it could blow up to a like big thing, and you could end up in foster care because of it, or like not really, but like it could. You didn't know that as a child. You didn't know that like for what you knew as a child, that could have been a consequence if you had exposed your family secrets to other people. And so I think there could have possibly been a reason why you had to make these small lies, and I think it was really unfair that some bullies like it was funny to expose your lies. And yeah. But yeah, so I think with the Four of Cups, I think this is kind of like with the Nine of Pentacles, but also with the Four of Pentacles, it's the same energy. I think some people might have seen you as someone who like you might have had like that attitude that I talked about before, that like, or you might have developed that at some point where you were just like, fuck it, fuck everyone, I don't need people in my life in order to be happy. I'm like, I don't, like, you might have used that as a defense mechanism, that you kind of pushed people away, because if you pushed people away, they couldn't hurt you. So you might also have like had some experiences where like with your parents, where your parents disappointed you, and I think like overall I think you were very like, I think many people around you in your childhood disappointed you and did things that, like, I'm also just guessing that like people who were supposed to be there for you, they weren't there, and so like I think you felt very much alone with all your problems as well. Like, I think for an instance of bullying, I don't think you told anyone about it. Like, you didn't tell your parents about it. Possibly, like maybe they changed your schools, but it could have been like something completely different that made them change your school. But I think for most of you, I don't think you talked to anyone about the bullying. You didn't tell the teachers. You didn't tell your parents. The children in your school could have like hurt you physically, like beat you up, and you could have like had bruises on your body and on your face, like from beating from your bullies, like from being beaten by your bullies. But you didn't, even that wasn't enough for you to like tell your parents or tell your teachers, and you probably said that like that you had just fallen down or on your bike, and that was why you were bruised. Or, and well, I'm also getting that maybe some of you were beaten like in your home as well, and I feel like maybe for some of you something happened at home, like you might have like experienced some abuse, or like if it wasn't your parents, it could have been someone else in your family who abused you, and I think the teachers in your school and like your child's psychologist and like all the like there were quite a lot of adults in your life who didn't do their job properly, because it's like they didn't actually notice what was going on in your life, like if it was at home or if it was at school, it like both, like also like if it has nothing to do with like your home, if your home life was actually quite fine, but like you were bullied in school and like beaten up in school, and then I think your teachers never saw it, or like they didn't do their job properly. They should have interfered, and like maybe even for some of you, you might have had like experiences where you were getting beaten by some bullies at your school, and you actually saw like in like side of your eye, like you saw a teacher walking by, and you might have seen that the teacher just closed his eyes and acted like he hadn't seen anything. And so I think you felt like the adults in your life just kept disappointing you and didn't do anything, and just ignored you and acted like everything was just fine, and that they didn't see anything, and that and I think you might, like, in your childhood, like from a very early age, I think you might have lost faith in humanity, really. Like, I think that might have been like the thing, like maybe it wasn't just like an attitude you had that like fuck everyone, but like you might have like felt this like deeply, that like fuck everyone, like no one was there for you, and you couldn't rely on anyone in your life. Like, you were all alone. You were born into the world alone, and you were supposed to be alone, and you were going to die alone. Everyone, and like life is kind of like had like from a very early age like a like existential crisis where you just felt like, what's the point? I know this is a really depressing reading. I'm very sorry, but like but this sounds like it was really hard for you, and like if I'm right about this, and I hope I am, I don't hope I am, but of course not. Like I hope I'm wrong, because like it sounds like horrible, but like it would also like be very weird if I talked about this and like your childhood actually was like rainbows and unicorns. But like, I'm not getting that feeling from this. I'm getting the feeling that that you had a hard childhood, that and I think people perceived you at some point. People started perceiving you as someone who were very closed off, and who were very like maybe even that you rejected others, which is kind of ironic since like, but I think like because you were rejected so much in your early childhood, I think you just turned the tables and started rejecting others. And like maybe that was also your way of like taking control over the situation, that like, okay, you can't control people, and you can't make people like you, and you can't stop people from rejecting you, but you can take the power in your hand by rejecting others before they can reject you, and before they have the opportunity to protect you, to reject you. Sorry. So yeah, but I think I'll end the reading here, and I hope this reading gave you some clarity, or if not, then just that that you know that I see you, like, and I can see what you've been through, and like if you're afraid, like if you've always like felt like no one could see your troubles or the problems that you had in like, that no one acknowledged how hard it was for you growing up, if you felt that way, and maybe even still feels that way today, I want you to know that like I can see that this was really hard for you. and no child should have ever been through this. And so it was really unfair for you that you had to have been through this, and so yeah, but that's just what I wanted to say. So I'll end the reading. It feels weird to ask you to subscribe to my channel after this, because I feel like a bit of a whore for asking, but like if you want to, I would be happy if you subscribe to my channel. If you want to see more readings about, for instance, your childhood and family stuff, and like I will keep creating those kinds of readings in the future, and so I would love if you could subscribe to my channel. And bye. Hello, group number 5. You chose this the Cook's Tarot deck, and I will start with some channeled information for you, and then I will draw some cards for you, or like shuffle some cards. And I will start with the channeling now. Group number 5. What were group number 5, the people who will choose group number 5, what were they like as children? So some of you might have grown up in sort of like a big family. I think you like possibly you could have possibly had a lot of siblings, like maybe even like 5 siblings, and all siblings like in many different like age, like in many different ages, like and so like some of you had like might have had an older sibling, like the oldest sibling that you had might have been kind of like a bit of a mother to you, like because she was so much older than you, or he or she was so much older than you. I think some of you might have been like the youngest sibling, or possibly the second youngest, or maybe in the middle somewhere. Like I'm getting also like the vibe that you might have been like the middle child, either the middle child or the youngest child, because I'm also getting that like maybe some of you are were the youngest, and some of you were the middle child. And for the ones of you who were the middle child, I think you grew up kind of like in that like you might not have gotten a lot of attention as a child, like you might have fainted a bit into the background, and so you might have felt like a bit overlooked in your family, or maybe like, oh, I'm also getting something about maybe your family being kind of loud, like that you have like a loud family, and you might be the more silent, introverted type yourself, and and you felt like you had to like speak up really loudly to be able to be in the conversation, like that you had to almost like yell to be heard, and I think you weren't really that comfortable with yelling and like drawing attention to yourself, and so I think that's why you kind of like fainted into the background. And you might also have had like family members who because like you were like maybe not the black sheep, but like the one in the family who were an introvert, and the rest of your family were loud and outgoing, and so I'm also getting like this feeling that your family members, both your siblings and possibly also your parents, kind of talked for you a lot in your childhood, that whenever your family went to like family get-togethers with like the rest of the family, then like if an uncle came up to you and asked you how school was going, or or something about friends or boys or something, then you were never allowed to actually answer for yourself, like because there was always like someone in your family who came and like answered for you and talked for you and said, oh yeah, she's seeing this guy, this boy from the hood, or oh, she's like for instance, like or like if an uncle asked you about school when you were a child, then your mother or father came and like answered them and said, oh yeah, she's doing great, she or he, I don't know your gender, but like she's doing great, like she's getting straight A's, and or not, but like they might have like swooped in and like saved you. I think your family actually considered this as their way of saving you, which is kind of weird because I don't really think it was a save. I think it was more like I don't think you considered it a save. I think you more considered it as them butting into this conversation. But I think I also get like feeling that some of you may like because your family always did this, I think you at some point might have like gotten so used to it that that you possibly became a bit lazy in social gatherings. So like whenever someone came up to you to like ask you something, you might have like expected your family to come and answer for you. So maybe you actually like at some point just stopped trying, just let them answer, and in a way I think at some point you felt like it was nice enough that you didn't have to like think of an answer and didn't have to like bother with that, because there was always someone who could just talk for you and answer for you, and but I think like I think you always like I think this did kind of make you feel a bit like because the thing is that like this might be very like your family might have felt like they were being nice to you by saving you, and answering for you, but I think it was kind of like it didn't really help you at all that they did this, because it might have even made other people perceive you in a certain way, like the rest of the family might have like started seeing you as like this very, very, very shy person who couldn't talk for themselves, and like that you needed your family to talk for you, and like they might have misunderstood the whole thing and like thought that you needed them, but really it was them who came to you and tried to save you. You were not, you never ever gave any it was never your wish, I think, to have your family talk for you. I think you wanted to talk for yourself in your childhood. I think you I don't think you were like shy. I just think you were introverted, and I think your extroverted family just didn't understand that, and so they might have like give you that stamp that on you, that the stigma on you that you were really shy. And I don't think you were. You were just shy in comparison to them, but you weren't shy like in any other comparison. Like if you from any other measure than in your particular family. Like for instance, like maybe you grew up in a family that also sings a lot. I don't know if that's, but I'm getting that vibe that your family might have really loved to sing a lot, and they might have sung at like every family gathering. They might have like taken the microphone or something and started just singing, and a thing in your family that and like your family even felt like this was kind of a part of their identity, that they were like a singing family, like that was like who they were. And I think you have a very good singing voice, but I think you never felt comfortable singing in front of others, and I think you were very like withdrawn every time your family took the microphone, because you were like, oh, now I have to sing. I don't want to sing, and so you might have felt like your family forced you into singing publicly, and you didn't want to do that. And so like, and when you told your family that you didn't want to do that, they might have like misinterpreted that as you being like as like they might have seen it as a problem that it really wasn't, like as if you were like, oh, that you had stage fright, or that you were like afraid of putting yourself out there, or that. But like if this was any other family, like then they would have like accepted that like not everyone likes to sing publicly. It's not something everyone likes to do, and sometimes some people don't like to sing either, and that's also fine. And but I think your family might not have been that open to you being a bit different from them and having some different interests than they had. Like maybe your family also like really liked this might be something for maybe only a few of you, but some of you might have also might have had a family who were church goers, who liked to go to church, and they might have always gone to church every Sunday, and you didn't want to do that because it didn't really interest you that much. And I also think that might have like triggered your family, like, and so yeah, maybe there is something about that black sheep thing, that you might have been like a bit of the black sheep in the family, because, and only because you were different, in like that you were introverted, they were extroverted, you didn't like to go to church, they loved to go to church, you had some other interests and they had some other interests, and it just didn't match up. I'm also getting like one thing, and this is also very specific for maybe only a few of you, but you might have had like something that was like maybe some of you were or are dyslexic, and like I think it might have been really hard for you, especially because your family was so big, because I don't know if it was if they noticed, if your family noticed it right away, because you faded into the background. You were like people, your family didn't pay that much attention to you, because you didn't demand attention, and so like you might have like had something that you struggled with alone, because you didn't like, but also maybe because you didn't feel like your family would understand you. So maybe you were the only one who were in your family who were dyslexic, and so like you didn't or maybe it was something else, like it could have and like I'm not going to like compare dyslexia with sexuality, but like I was just thinking that like that's like it's not that like that would have been a really, but so some of you might have struggled with your sexuality as well, in not necessarily in your childhood, but it could have been also in your childhood. Like maybe you knew even as a child that you were gay, and you felt like you didn't want to tell your family because your family wouldn't understand you, or maybe that they would understand you, but that they would be like embarrassingly open about it, and like maybe if maybe you were afraid like that if you told your parents or your siblings, that they would be telling everyone in the family about it, or and also their friends, and like that it like that like you might have like had some like nightmares where you thought of like going to like some family get together where your siblings would like Babylon, like I'll get to that, but like that your siblings would talk to your aunts and uncles and all your family and cousins and nephews and everyone, and say that and say that you were gay and that you were out of the closet, and have a party, and like, I don't know, that I think you were very afraid that your family would be a bit over the top in their reaction, that they, or something, or that they would make too much of a deal out of it. And that could also be like if it was something other than sexuality, like I think you had like, you didn't want to talk about personal stuff with your family because you were afraid that, like, if you said something, like maybe you've experienced a lot of times that you said something confidential to your siblings or your parents, and you said to them that they should keep it a secret, and then at some family get together they would get drunk and they would talk about it to everyone and like make a big announcement even about it or something. I think you grew up being a bit embarrassed of your family. I think, yeah. So, but Babylon. So Babylon. Well, there could be something about religion. That religion was a part of your childhood. Maybe you were born into a Christian or a Jewish family. Maybe you had like maybe you had one of those like children's Bibles or family Bibles, you know, those with the illustrated pictures, and so like there might have been some pictures of like Babylon and the fall of Babylon, and that might have like bit or something in that book that might have traumatized you a little bit, and maybe that's why you didn't want, like, that's maybe something that drove you into becoming a non-believer or something, because of that. But like you might have like been freaked out. Like I know that in like one of those children's Bibles or family Bibles, there's like this picture of this illustration of Samson without his eyes and like bleeding from his eyes. I think it's actually an illustration that is like used in those family Bibles all around the globe, and so I think it's a picture that has traumatized a lot of children, and so you might have been one of those who were traumatized by that picture. And that, like, there were quite a few like very vivid like illustrations of especially Old Testament, and like you probably shouldn't illustrate Old Testament in a children's Bible for children to see, because there's really none of the stories in the Old Testament that need illustrations like for children. Well, but so there's also some the Babylon, fall of Babylon. So some of you could have like experienced a hurricane in your childhood as well. Katrina, When was Hurricane Katrina? I don't know. I don't live there. Like I don't know if like the timing is really off. I don't know if it happened 10 years ago or 20 years or like 5 years. I have no like real time frame of when that happened. I'm so sorry, but like there might have been like a hurricane that happened in your childhood that might have or a flood in your childhood that might have ruined your childhood home, and there might have been some issues with the insurance that didn't cover it, and it might have been a really annoying thing and or devastating thing really, and that's maybe why you, so like maybe your family isn't that big, or but like after this hurricane or flood or whatever ruined your house, you might have had to move to some family members, and so you might have lived with some family members for a while in your childhood, where you like lived two families under one roof, and that might have been quite crowded. I think you might have become quite like sensitive to noise at that point, because there was so many noises everywhere, and like it might have made it really hard for you to focus on school, I think, like on your homework, I think, and especially if you were dyslexic as well, and also had to deal with a lot of noise around you. I think you might have like had some problems with school because you couldn't focus in a school, and so you might have gotten like some like bad grades in school. But I think it's more like the circumstances that you never really had like a sanctuary where you could focus your thoughts, because like there was a lot of noise around you, chaos, a lot of loud, like people yelling, I feel like, but not necessarily like screaming at each other, like fighting. I don't think there was a lot of fighting going on. I just think your parents and your siblings and possibly your aunts and uncles and nephews and whatever, they were all just very loud and like laughed very loudly, yelled when they talked, because they were so many. Like maybe your siblings, like if you had a lot of siblings, but also like if your parents came from families where they also had a lot of siblings, then like everyone might just have like been used to having to yell to be able to talk to each other, because it might, like when there's a lot of people you have to yell because to be heard. But let's shuffle some tarot cards and see what you were, how you were as a child. Group number 5. I'm also like, I'm getting hoarse, so in my throat, and so like I think you might have like had to really strain your voice a lot to be able to be heard, and that might have not been very natural for your voice. Maybe you had like a bit of a weak voice growing up, which might not have like been a very, very ideal thing to have in your family. So with the 8 of Swords here and Justice. Both these pictures suggest some weight issues, so some of you might have had issues with your weight in your childhood. So some of you might have been a bit chubby when you were a child, and or weight might have been like an issue growing up, or maybe you maybe it was like the maybe you had a problem with your weight, like because you were too thin. So some of you might have had an eating disorder, or maybe you just maybe you were just naturally skinny, and so weight was always like an issue. Like you might have had like family members always like telling you that you needed to eat more and that you were too skinny, or that you needed just to put on weight, that there was something wrong with you because you were too skinny, and that you were possibly anorexic, even though you weren't anorexic, but some of you might have been. But I think and so like I think weight was like maybe a big issue for others, like maybe people around you were like always talking about your weight, even if you were too skinny or too chubby or whatever it was, like that weight was like a constant topic that was talked about. Or maybe like you could have also just like overheard your family members always talking about their weight, like maybe your family members were always like on diets, and so you might have like been a bit affected by them, or by your family members always talking about being on different diets and trying to lose weight, and but I'm also just getting that like at some point like you might have felt like because like this person is looking into this mirror, and the mirror, like even though there's like some other symbolic meaning of this card, but like what I'm thinking of right now in this context, I think this is talking about you seeing yourself very differently than you actually were. And not necessarily just physically, like even though some of you could have like had some body dysmorphia as a child, but I don't think that's it. I think it's more that I think you were maybe a bit you had a hard time seeing yourself as who you like, as a person that you were, because you were always told who you were by your family members. Your family members loved to tell you who you were, and talk for you when you were meeting new people, or meeting family, or meeting friends. Your family loved to talk for you, and also describe who you were to other people, and so I think you became quite used to like in your childhood to just get to just be told who you were, and so you might not have like figured out in an organic way who you were as a child, like when you were a child, and so like you like you might have relied on other people to always like to just tell you and so you might not have discovered yourself, and so you might also have had like a bit of a weird feeling of your own identity, or you might have seen yourself a bit weird, or in a way that weren't actually true. Like you might have at some point you might have started perceiving yourself as a lot more shy than you actually were. Like maybe you weren't shy at all, but you had this idea that you were shy because that's what you were told by everyone around you. So of course they were possibly right, because they were always telling you that. And so I think there's like some things here where like you were just like where you might have like gotten a bit of an identity crisis, because at some point you had to figure it out for yourself, like who you really were, and I think it was really hard for you to figure out your true identity, because like every time you tried to discover your identity when you were a child, someone came around and told you otherwise, and like it was hard to break out of that character, that stigma that was on you, that like if your whole family perceived you in one way, then it was hard for you to like get out of that character, or that it was hard to break free from that perception that your family had of you, and that's okay. That's kind of funny. With the 7 of Swords here, there is someone who is actually breaking out, or breaking and entering, but like breaking, like it's still the same. Like I think you grew up like in your childhood. You tried to break free from this stigma that your family had created, this identity that your family had created for you, and told you like this is who you are, and it's no discussion, that's just who you are. And like I think you tried to break free from that, tried to steal back what they stole from you in a way, by stealing that from you, stealing your opportunity to actually discover your identity for yourself, and so there might also be like something about like breaking and entering, and that's also what I was like, maybe it wasn't a hurricane that like ruined your childhood home. It could have been like someone who damaged your property, or stole from you, or broke into your home and made your home feel very unsafe afterwards, which made your parents move away because they didn't like to live in that house after someone broke into it. And it might have also like made your family a bit like, or especially your parents, have like a bit like trust issues after that. But there could also have been like something about a family member of yours who ended up in jail because they stole something, and that might have affected your childhood, affected you as a child. So with the Fool here, I think I think this might like be the double side to you. Like you might, as a child, you might have had like two sides, like the side that the person that you were at home, and then the person that you were when you were with your friends, for instance. Like you might have been really introverted at home, and you might have like been shy, or that might have been how you, or you might have like fainted into the background, and you might have like and that was what was expected from you, like that was like the role you were playing in your family, because that was how your family perceived you. And so I think maybe when you were with your friends, you were a completely different person. You were this like dancing person, possibly who loved to dance, and who loved to who actually loved to draw attention to you. Like you love to draw attention to you. You possibly like killed it on the dance floor. Of course, like there might not have been that many dance floors to kill it at in your childhood as a child, but there could still possibly have been that, because like there are those like children's discos, and so like you might have like been more open and more extroverted when you were out with your friends. There's also like something about there might have been like some rollerblades, like you know, rollerblades. Is that what? Like there might have been like some place in your hometown where children could like come and like roller skate. Yeah, that's what it's called. So like there might have been a roller skating alley or something in your hometown that you went to a lot in your childhood, and you might have been really good at roller skating, or play like the ice skating, possibly. There's also like that roller derby, or like you might have been to, like you might have done some kind of like team sport as well, where you were like actually perceived as quite extroverted in that group. But I'm also just getting something about dancing. I think you are really good at dancing. You might not want to dance in front of your family, but that's possibly because your family sees you as like this person who doesn't want to dance, or like. But I don't think you are like that at all. I just think it's some weird role that you have been playing in front of your family. But yeah, I think that's all I have for you, group number 5. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in my next reading. Bye. Hello, group number 6. You chose this herbal tarot deck, and I'll start with a channeled message or some channeled information for you, and then I will shuffle the cards and see what the tarot has to say. And so I'll start with the channeling. So what was group number 6 like as a child? What were you like as a child, group number 6? What so something about stop playing these games, and I don't know if I don't know if some of you, if it's like referring to some of you playing games, or like, of course you played games as like a child. I think we all did, but like some of you might have like had parents who didn't want you to, or who stopped you from playing, like who were like, who kept like stopping you from playing games, who didn't want you to play games or something. Maybe you were like, maybe you really like to like play video games, and so your parents might have been like, I'm also getting, because of this herbal like tarot that deck that you chose, that maybe your parents were like maybe hippies, and so they might not have like, they might have been very like very, felt like video games and stuff like that was like like it didn't fit into their idea of this like idol, not idol, but like this like harmonic, we live in the forest, everyone is just dancing to hippie music, and we are all just supposed to be in touch with nature and hug trees, and I don't even, I'm not sure if I'm actually picking up on something right here, because I'm not really sure about it, but like but I think like whatever could have been the cause to this, I think your parents were a bit had some opinion about video games, and thought video games were bad for you, or that it was violent, and they didn't like violence, and they were possibly pacifists who didn't want like any violence in their life, and they possibly like you possibly lived like on a farm or something, but like not like an active farm, but like your parents might have like bought a farm that wasn't like an active farm, but like a what I don't know what the name for that is. I know what it's called in Danish, but I don't know what it's called in English. It's like a farm that is no longer a farm, and then you can buy it and live in it, but it's not a farm anymore, but you can still use the land for like whatever you want to use it for, and so your parents might have bought that, and they might have like grown their own plants in the field, and they might have like felt like they might have wanted you to go out and help them, and that I think they had like some idea in their mind that it would be like this harmony where they could like have their children run around in the field and everything would be just like some perfect fairy tale story, but I'm not sure if it was, because maybe you just wanted to like play video games and do the stuff that other children were doing, and playing with stuff that other children were playing with, and like I think you just wanted to be like a normal child, and I think you felt like you were a bit like strange because you came from like a bit of a strange family who were like doing things very differently than the other families, and also possibly had some other beliefs than the other families. Like and this could also have been something like that. The other, like your friends or the parents of your friends, your friends' parents might have like thought your parents were weird because they had some opinions, maybe political opinions that might not have been that popular in the place that you lived in. Like for instance, I don't know, but like if you grew up in like in Texas, or like I don't know, I'm sorry for being ignorant because I don't live in like the United States, and like I don't know a lot about it, but like I could imagine that like if you live in Texas and you believe that there should be stricter or more strict gun laws, then you probably won't be the most popular people in the area. But I'm not sure if I'm like I don't know, but like so your parents might have had like some opinions on guns, and that guns shouldn't be allowed, and so some people in the area might not have been very fond of your parents because of that or something. But like it could also have been something completely different. Like this is just an example. It could have been some other political opinion that your parents had that the parents or the people in the area didn't share, and so they might have been like. But also just like I think like maybe it's just as simple as that your parents didn't want video games. And so they might have like told the other parents, like in the school, in your class, they might have told them that like if you came to like some classmate's house for a play date, that the parents of your classmate shouldn't allow you to play video games, and that might have made some of the other parents of your friends, like your friends' parents, they might have felt a bit weird about that they had to like tell their child that they were not allowed to play video games with you because you were not allowed to play video games, and like they might have felt that it was a bit weird, that like, and I think so I have this feeling that like some of your friends' parents didn't like didn't listen to your parents and they allowed you to play video games anyway, and so like they just said to you that they haven't seen anything, like and so so I think many of the parents like kind of broke the rule and said fuck it, so but yeah, but let's shuffle and ask the tarot about what you were like as a child. Group number 6. Some of you might have had like a name that like a bit of a hippie name, like your parents might have given you like a name that no one else has, like Mayflower or like something like that, like something very unusual for a name. So you might have gotten a bit like, I don't think you got bullied for it, but like I think some might have like made fun of it, but I don't think it was that bad though. I think for some of you probably kind of liked that you had a name that was so unique. So I think maybe that was something your parents did right, actually. Because like if you have like a really cool name, that is something that is noticeable, like in your adult life, like who wants to like buy a book if like everyone would, but like maybe someone would rather want to read a book written by Mayflower than by Tina, or I don't know. So, sorry if your name actually is Tina though. It's a pretty name. Nothing wrong with it. So, okay. So, medicine wheel. Yeah. I think with this card here, some of you might have had some kind of disease, maybe a childhood disease, maybe it's mumps or not that, or like I don't remember, but like that sickness where you get really tired. Mono. You could have had mono as a child, which made you quite sick for a while. And so like maybe that's why your parents were like, maybe your parents were quite protective of you, because you were sick as a child. And maybe that's actually why like they chose. Not that I think that it's your fault, or like I don't want you to think that you were responsible for all your misfortune, but like your parents might have moved to a farm a long way from like the city because they felt like it would be calming and peaceful for you, and maybe also to get away from all the pollution and something like that. And so they might have felt like it was ideal for you to have like fresh air and you could get that on the countryside where like and so maybe they made that choice to protect you. Maybe you also got like some disease because of pollution, or maybe you developed some allergies or something, and your parents may have like gone to a doctor or possibly like an alternative healer or something who told them that you were getting these allergies because of the pollution from the city, like and that your allergies would go away if you if your family moved to somewhere outside the city, and so your parents did that, and I actually think it might have helped you. Maybe your allergies actually did go away after you moved to the countryside. So there could have been something about it, but so it could have helped actually. And maybe like after maybe that kind of like when they realized that it actually helped you and made you maybe it healed you when like maybe you started having allergies as like in a very early age, like as a child when you were like maybe 3 or something like that, and then you moved away to like the countryside, and then your allergies magically went away, and so maybe that created this hippie thing that I think your parents like maybe your parents became hippies after that, or maybe they just started believing more in like alternative medicine and healing your body through like the nature, and that nature can heal you, and like so maybe that spiked their belief in and made them a bit like hippies, because they actually had proof that the city was bad for you and pollution is bad for you, and like it's so because it made their child sick, and natural response really. So some of you might also have like had some side effects of some vaccine, and I think you were maybe healed by some alternative medicine or something. I don't know. That might be a stretch. I'm not sure. So with the 9 of Cups, I think as a child, I think you were quite good in school. I think you got quite good grades in school. I think the teachers really liked you a lot in school. You might also have been like a bit of like the teacher's pet, some of you. You might also have like won a lot of contests, like spelling bees and like math contests, or chess, or like debates or something. Like I think you won a lot of trophies. Like you got a lot of trophies. It could also be from horseback riding. You probably were really some of you were good at horseback riding. Maybe you had a farm, like maybe the farm that you had actually had horses, and so you learned how to ride a horse, and you became really good at it, and so maybe you got a lot of trophies on your like room wall, like from horseback riding competitions. So yeah, with the Fool here, I think you were quite energetic actually as a child, and that could like it could be like this sad thing, like but it only refers to like one of you, that like you were really energetic and very sporty, and like you and like physical you as a child, and then it might have changed after you got the vaccine for HPV, and so some of you might have gotten like side effects from that vaccine, and like after that you probably became really tired and had like body aches, and so I think your parents could really see a very big difference in you, because before that you were really, really sporty and had a lot of energy, and so the contrast might have been like striking, and it might have upset your parents a lot and made them really question Western medicine, and made them like mad at the government or big pharma for making their child sick. I think your parents were kind of like they did hold quite a grudge, I think, and I think they got quite political after that, like active politically after that, and also I think they might have gotten really mad also that many doctors didn't believe them, or didn't believe that the HPV vaccine could give those sorts of side effects that they so obviously could see in you, because they saw the contrast very quickly after the vaccine, that you changed after that. So with the 8 of Cups, I think some of you, like, there is a bit of a theme here also, like, because like the mountains in the background and the mountains here. So some of you might have moved to somewhere where there were a lot of mountains, and there were possibly no mountains in the place that you lived in before, or you may have like started hiking as a child, or like hiking like on hills, something. But I'm also just getting that I think some of you were kind of like some of you were perceived as a bit withdrawn, or this could possibly be because of the of your disease, or whatever disease you had as a child. I think some of you were like, I think you were perceived, especially by your teachers, as someone who may not have been, who may have withdrawn and may not have been like very active, like, or maybe it was because you were absent, like, because of, like, the Eight of Cups is about absence, and so many your teachers might have like at some point started seeing you as quite absent, as like someone who were not present in the class because you weren't there, because you were home sick, because you had a disease, and so you might not have you might have have missed a lot of school because of your disease, and so that might have like made your school life a bit difficult, because it was hard for you to have those have so many sick days and get behind in school, but like you couldn't really do anything about it because you were sick, and so like it might have been very frustrating for you to lose so much school, so much education, and still keep up. But I think you did keep up, but I think it was hard for you to keep up in school when you were absent so much, and that's only natural, of course. I think your teachers, like, because you were like your teachers really liked you, I think they kind of was a bit devastated because of this, because they felt like it was a shame that you weren't there because you were so good at school, and so it was a shame that you missed so much school when you were so good at it, and I think they felt like it was a bit unfair, or that, yeah, that such a good student had to go through so many like so much like medical issues, so many medical issues and like disease, something like that, like that. I don't think any of you had like teachers who didn't believe that you were sick. Like, I think everyone knew that you were sick. Like, they never questioned it, but they just felt like it was a shame that you were sick because you had so much potential. Not that it was wasted, but it was just like a shame that you didn't get all the education that you deserved. And that's kind of the message I'm getting. So yeah, but that's all I have for you, group number 6. I hope you enjoyed this reading, And if you did, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in my next reading. Bye!